Okay, welcome, everybody. This is Sherry Strong with Strong Communities, and it is 11:30 Central, 12:30 Eastern on May 7th, 2020. And it is my privilege to introduce to you today and bring to you a subject that hopefully during this time of, if you're watching this recording, let's say it's 2022, 2023, or 2030 for that matter, and you're watching this recording, we're in the middle of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic and a once-in-a-century type of situation globally. And so how we do things has changed. And so this is so relevant. We had this planned before the pandemic, and it was about successful networking and building relationship building. And Jana, who is a BNI franchise owner, and I'll introduce her here officially in a second, is a master at this subject matter. And so we are just thrilled and delighted that she is here, is going to share her expertise with all of us. Just to set this up for you, it's about 30. I know we put out an hour, but it may not go that long. So just so you know, she will open it up for questions. So feel free. I'm going to make this so that you control your own mute and mute on or mute off, unless I hear background noise, and then I'll take the power back. But we are just thrilled. They always say you could tell somebody and their character by the company they keep. So this is somebody I hope I would get judged by. So she is, she's wise. She is a friend. I consider her a friend. I met her a couple of years ago now, and lots of business experience, and just when it comes to building relationships. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you officially, Jana Cardona. It's Arlington, Tennessee, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Yep. Which is in the Memphis metro area, and she is the executive director in West Tennessee and North Mississippi for BNI franchises. So it's the Business Network International. You have two of them, correct? Two franchises?
I have two franchises, one in Tennessee, Western Tennessee, and Northern Mississippi.
Okay, which means, so in those two franchises, it equals to 500 members and 25 chapters. So tell me if I've got the numbers wrong.
No, you got it right.
And is in the process of building more chapters, even throughout all of this. She guides the members. And here's the thing, though. Here's her credibility. And I love when she provided this, is that she's helped generate business owners in those chapters over $30 million in revenue. And if that doesn't help you understand what she does, and she knows how to connect with people, she knows how to connect people to people. And in fact, in the last 6 weeks, they've generated $2.7 million even during these times. Besides BNI, she also offers private group coaching. She's actually a certified Strong Communities facilitator, so we're glad that she represents us as well. She's married, 2 grown children, has 8 grandchildren. Look at her. I want to be like her when I grow up. But she just loves personal development, entrepreneurship, and she loves being out in nature and playing with her grandchildren. Of course, I'm sure there's some mentoring there as well. It's about influencing people to do the right thing and to do more, be more, and have more. So I think her key to success, I think I could safely say, is it's really all around people. So without further ado, Miss Jana, I'm just going to hand it right over to you. You can add anything else you would like, but everybody, if you want to do jazz hands for Jana, that would be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sherry. I'm excited about this. And if you can turn on your cameras, that would be awesome, because otherwise I'm kind of talking to I don't know who, and I love talking to you and getting feedback from you. So if you can keep your self off mute and show your camera, that would be awesome. But Sherry had asked me to cover some foundational networking principles that you need to unlock your iPhone first. Oh, I don't know what the deal is with this, but Siri's just starting to talk to me. Sorry. All of a sudden, out of nothing, she's talking to me. Woo woo. All right, sorry about that. Sherry asked me to talk about the foundation of networking and relationship building, and then when this crisis hit, how to get through it. So we divided this into two sections. And those two sections, the first part, I'm going to cover the foundation for networking and relationship building, but I'm going to weave in some things you can do now. And then next week, we'll cover what are some tips that you can use now, since we can't really network out in public. We can't go out anywhere of much value. We can't see too many people except 6 feet apart. So there are techniques that we can do. And some of you are business owners. Some of you are strengths people, and you're in the same program as Sherry. And then some are just wanting to get a little bit more relationship building. So whatever stage you're in, some of these things will actually fit with you. So our beginning is going to be just setting your foundation. Now, there's a lot of reasons for networking, and some of them are beliefs, some of them are myths. And so I want to kind of cover those with you so that you can see. The first one, as far as reasons for networking, people say, if people know, like, and trust you, they'll refer to you. Now, this is where usually if people are off their mic, I say, do you totally believe that? Anybody want to say yes, no, maybe so? Usually it's, oh yeah, I believe that, right?
Yes,
I
and
believe
if
that
anybody
if
wants
you,
to chat too, I'll type out, I'll yell out what they're saying. So if
yeah, that
you're in
would
your
be great.
workplace and all you can do is chat, go ahead and chat, and I'll let Jana know what you're saying. Yes.
Yes, yes, I believe that. Okay, so they feel really confident that if people know, like, and trust you, they're going to refer business to you. That's kind of a myth, because how many of you get a steady stream of referrals from your mother? Anybody? Like, or your dad, maybe best friend, right? It's not quite the same, is it? They don't really give you the kind of referrals that you want. And it's because the relationship with you is different. They think of you as a son, a daughter, a friend. They don't really think of you as a business owner unless they are a business owner and you're sharing kind of clients and referrals. So that's number one that gives us a little bit of shaky ground. Number two is that I need to attend a lot of events because I just might bump into the people that I need to see. Well, I'm going to kind of discuss that a little bit and maybe debunk that, because in my opinion, we don't have a lot of time. And so we should choose the events we go to and really effectively meet the people we need to meet. Now, if you're just socializing, fine, go to whatever event. But a lot of times when you're networking with a purpose. All right, so passing out a lot of cards, that's also something people do a lot. Everywhere you go, people, here's my card, call me if you need me, right? The problem with that, how many of you have a stack of cards in your desk drawer or put away in a box or something, and you're like, I don't even know who these people are, right? And usually what happens after that is they will email you a lot of information, and you're thinking, I don't even remember this, and I didn't ask for this. So typically it's a delete. So it doesn't really work to do that. People just really, unless you build that relationship, which we will really spend time talking about, cards don't work by themselves. So you don't want to do that, and you certainly don't want a whole bunch of cards collected, right? Because they're just going to get collected, and then they're going to get dumped. And you don't want to email everybody that you meet. These are all common practices, but these are all very much inefficient and ineffective and really kind of annoying for some people. So that's one of the debunks that I want to kind of address on the front end. It really, networking isn't about just passing out those cards. Just don't, you can do it. I carry cards, but what I do is I wait, and when you hear the rest of this presentation, I hand them out at the right time, and only to the people that I feel would benefit from knowing me, and I would benefit from knowing them. Otherwise, if there's not a common ground, they're going to throw your card away. It's just the reality. It's really all about building relationships, and that's what we're going to spend most of the time on. is building relationships. And you can use this no matter what you do, no matter if you have a business or whatever. It's all about how you speak to people, how you build the relationship, and how you keep moving forward. So let's go into a little bit of what networking really is. Networking is that building relationships. It's the only true form of carrying out business. You really don't want to do business with people you don't know, like, and trust, but they definitely have to have that business. It's not about just knowing the liking, trusting. You have to have that relationship, and you have to really know them. It's about connecting. And that's a big part of networking, is it's not all about you. It's about who you know that you can connect with this person, or who you know that can connect with that person, or who people that you talk to can connect you to. It's all connecting. And big one, big one is helping others. And when you go to an event, that should be your primary goal. Who can I help at this? How can I help? What can I listen for that might just be what I can give to somebody else? That's going to take you miles down the road, rather than people that go to networking events with the idea of selling. Like, who can I bag this client? Who can I get an appointment with? Who can I sell this particular item to? If you do that, you're going to turn people away. And usually, if I can see people, I'll ask, how many of you have had those people you just want to get away from when you're networking because they talk too much and they just like, woo. You want to get away from them because they're not about helping, they're about selling. And also, this is another really important one, creating strategic partnerships. So I'm going to go through that because that's really going to help you when you are wanting to either create more of a business strategy, or you want to meet different people. Say you've moved into a new area and you want to just meet people. All of these things apply no matter what you're doing. The first thing you need to do is make a plan. That is a huge important thing. And a lot of people, unfortunately, try to network and they really don't stop and sit down and think, what do I want? Who do I want? What types of clients do I want if you're a business person? Not everyone is going to be a good client for you. You don't want people who really take a lot of your time, but it's not worth the effort or the monetary value that goes into it. Maybe some people are just not the right client for you. You have to make a plan. So how do you do that? Number one, you sit down, and this is a great time because if you're on with me right now, you know that you're probably in some sort of isolation. We're all at home, right? We can't go out without a mask, or we can't go into big public places right now because of the COVID virus. So we have time to think, and we have time to really analyze, what do I want? And even if you're changing careers, this is a great time, because if you're not happy with what you're doing and you want to maybe change careers, what do you want to do? What really touches you? What do you want to move forward in? If you're in a business, who do you want to talk to as a client? Who do you need to connect with? So sit down and make a plan. For business owners, one of the most important strategies you can do is to think about why your clients come to you. Do they come for particular situations? If so, write those down. What are ideal clients? It's not somebody, it's not everybody, it's not anybody who. It's specific targets that you want to go. And then niche that you have, what really floats your boat? If you are a generalist, no one really knows what to give you. And it's like today, years ago when I was a kid, there were GPs, general practitioners. Now they're not very common. There's all specialists. They've learned that to be better at what you do, you have to specialize. So you would have to think about, what's your niche? What do you like to do? What would you like to build around? And then you need to figure out, in order to get to know what you need, what percentage of sales do you need? How's your closing ratio if you're in sales? It might be really strong, but it might need some work. How would you improve it? What would you do? This analysis on the front end saves you a tremendous amount of time on the background, and back, what am I trying to say? In the back end, sorry. And then it really helps you to qualify the types of referrals that you need. Because the referrals are what we're all after. Referrals are so much easier than if you just had to go out cold calling. Some people are really good at cold calling. Others, they run away from it. It's like, oh no, please don't make me do that, right? So you really need to think about what I'm going after and how do I close those? What kind of closing ratio am I getting, especially if you're in sales? So now one of the triggers that you need to think about, there are emotions and trigger statements that people say. So if you're in sales, one of the things you need to be willing to do is to teach other people what to look for, because just knowing what you do, if they know, I had in one of my groups one time, I had a CPA. Well, typically CPAs, what do you think they do? Taxes, right? Well, this CPA couldn't stand doing taxes. He wanted nothing to do with them. So literally in our groups, we only allow one person per specialty. Well, we could allow 2 CPAs because he wanted to do CFO work, and we could allow another CPA to come in that group because he was okay with doing taxes. They were great referral partners for each other because one didn't want to do what the other one did. So those kind of things, you have to specifically state what some kind of triggers are that people, either what they're planning to do. So some people could be talking about, oh, I'm thinking about a vacation, right? Bingo. Those kind of statements might trigger something for someone who sells insurance or someone who sells travel or whatever. What are they saying where they're happy or sad? What are they happy about? What are they sad about? What do they say? Oh, I'm so excited, my daughter's getting married, right? Well, that's possibly something that you might want to refer someone who has an event facility or someone who's a caterer. Those are all issues that you need to think about. What are people bragging about? What are people complaining about? Because we often hear that, oh, I'm so frustrated about whatever it is. What are problems or solutions or situations that people get into? And when I'm training anybody who's trying to develop a referral strategy and they're talking about their business all the time, these are some of the things I mentioned, and also life situations. What are life situations that are happening to people that would really be good potential referrals for you if you're in business? Now, there's a lot of triggers, and I put them in a little funny form, but what do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you touch? If you can describe what you're looking for like that, when you go, if you hear somebody say this, that's a good referral. If you see this, oh, that's a really good referral. Whatever it is in there, the more that you can put it to our 5 senses, we get it and we'll remember it. And it will actually come into our mind when we're not thinking about it because it's in our subconscious, and it, boom, it pops to the top. So you want to create your statements. First, you get your situations, then you create your statements around that. What do people say when they're talking about, with never mentioning your profession? They might say, oh man, I had to put a bucket in my son's room last night. He was so scared. That'll tell you possibly, gee, maybe you have some shingles off your roof. Maybe you need a roofer. But they never ever mention, gee, I need a roofer. They'll say other things. And that's what I'm talking about here. Now, products and services. All of us, if we're in sales, we either have some kind of product that we market or products, or we have service that we give to other people. So we have to sit down and actually analyze, for this situation, what product or service do I provide? And for this one, what product or service? Then you actually put it in kind of a priority order, if you will. Not everything everyone does in their business is pleasurable or productive. And you need to analyze your own business and say, what can I get rid of? What don't I really want more of? Especially when you're asking for referrals or you're out networking, you want to be able to present and represent the things that mean the most to you, that warm your heart, that you do best at, that you can really provide top-notch service or products. Those are the things you want to kind of move up, like the Netflix list where you move it to the top. That's what you want to do. You want to move it to the top of your list because these are the things you're going to go out and look for when you're networking or when you're talking to people. Those are the things that you want to put at the top of your list. But that you can do this, and this is more transactional. It's like going after one thing at a time. That's okay. But if you want to be a productive networker, you need to think about another thing, and that's called referral partners. Now, how you describe referral partners, they are people who often have the same client base as you. So you might have these clients over here. They do a totally different thing over here, and you're not competitive, but you serve the same people. So if you meet them and you develop a relationship with them, you can combine and you can literally put, oh, my person would need your service, right? Or your person would need my service. And you can actually combine clients. That's more of a referral partner. And that's more what we call residual income. That's continual and repetitive because you don't even have to. I'll give you a good example. Someone who inspects homes, they crawl under it, they inspect all around, they look at the electricity, they look underneath, is there mold, is there water? All those things come to their head. What a referral partner would need, they might need to be able to refer an electrician for any electrical problems. They might need to refer somebody who treats mold underneath the house, like crawl space. Lots of different people like that they have in their pocket, so to speak, that they can help their clients, but they don't do it. So they refer. Even if you do not have a business and you are just the average Joe Blow person, this is a huge plus for you to win friends and influence people. Because if you can refer other people to your friends, and they don't have to go through Google and search, they don't have to pick the wrong person, none of that happens because you vetted these people, you built a relationship, and you know you can trust them, and then you can refer them. Referral partners are one of the smartest things a networker can do, or anybody for that matter. You want to be able to build those referral partners, but you have to have the right ones, and not everyone who has synergistic clients will be a good referral partner for you. And one of the most important things you'll have to do with these referral partners is teach them how. Just because they know what you do doesn't mean they know how to refer you. So it's going to have to be time when you sit down, you chat over each other's business, you kind of analyze it, take it apart. I'll give you another example of this. I was helping in one of my groups a person who does kickboxing training. And we have a little form that they fill out as far as what's a good referral, what's a bad referral, and that kind of thing. When I read his, I assumed that his good referral would be 18 to maybe 30-year-old guys. And he had it under the bad referral category. And I'm like, what? Why? That doesn't make any sense to me. And he said, because those guys are so arrogant, they don't like to be beaten by girls. They don't like to be told what to do. And I thought, oh, okay, that makes sense. But I would have sent a whole bunch of those arrogant, no listen to people to him, not knowing if he hadn't taught me that. So those are the kind of things we just have to be more in tune with and be able to teach people how to refer us. Never just rely on somebody to say, oh, you know what I do, you can give me referrals. No way. They'll give you wrong ones. They'll give you all kinds of things that might waste your time. So that's it's a whole subject all on its own on building referral partners. Now, one other thing that happens when you go to a networking event, or you go to a family outing, or you go wherever you go, sometimes if you have a business or you're passionate about something, so maybe you're passionate about strengths. I know I was when I took the first session with Sherry. I was like, man, I couldn't stop talking about it. I talked to everybody about it, and I was like talking too much, right? And when people say, so what do you do if you are a business person? Too often people will just go blah, 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 and they just chatter on and on and on. And somebody's eyes are glazing over and they're like, too much information. So this is another whole training that I do to people to say, how do you introduce yourself to where you build a relationship, you don't like overwhelm people. And one of the tips to that is you craft what your message is, really short, and craft it intriguingly enough that somebody will say, how do you do that? In other words, don't just say, oh, I'm a real estate agent, or I'm in insurance, or whatever, because there's nothing more they can do except go, oh, okay. And they're not really intrigued by you. They just drop the subject. But if you want to say something like, for me, if I teach referral marketing and I'm a BNI director, I could say, oh, I'm a BNI director. Or I could say, I help people to earn more money by learning how to get referrals. That's not great, but it's better than going, I'm a BNI director, because they might say, oh, how do you do that, right? And then if I wanted them to look at one of my chapters, I would go, well, this is how I do it, but I really keep it short. And then this is the key. When you make your plan, let's go wind back a little bit. When you made your whole plan about what you wanted, so you're a business owner, you want these kinds of clients, and you have these referral partners that you need to meet. The best thing that you can do is just listen. So usually what I do is I say, I'd love to tell you more about what I do, but first, I want to know more about you, Sherry. And then I get Sherry to talk. Now, I'm going to listen, and I'm going to know what I wrote in my plan, and I'm going to hear and ask questions of Sherry and find out about her business and do all these other things. And all the while in the back of my head, I'm going, would she be a good referral partner for me? Would she be a good client for me? I'm answering my own questions. If she is, I just want to keep her talking. I want to learn more about her. And most importantly of all, I want her to like me. And the way she likes me is because I've allowed her to talk and I've allowed her to tell me. I haven't inundated her with all my information. I haven't inundated her with lots of what I do this and that, and whatever. She's running the other way, right? So when I come to the point where I feel like I need to let her go on, meet some other people, or I do, I'm going to say, this has been so fascinating. I've loved speaking with you. And some of the things that you said to me have made me think that I might be able to connect you to some people, and maybe we could even talk about how we might work together. Would you be open for coffee next week? Well, guess what? She's going to be, because I did not push on her. I didn't force any products on her. She might not even really know what in the heck I do because I just gave her this little tiny piece. She wants to know more. I want to know more about her. And so then we meet. Now, do I have permission to talk then about it? No. I just do little bits at a time, because what I'm doing is building a relationship. And relationships are about really give and take and building time with each other. So that's a huge thing. This slide to me is a very passionate one, because too many people really destroy themselves when they're networking because they talk too much, or they try and force or push or sell. If you go with the how can I help, and I'm not going to talk about myself, I'm going to find out about other people to see if I can connect with anybody, you're miles ahead of anybody else in the networking field. So now, if you network without a plan, you're all confused. You don't know who to meet. You might run into people all over the place. You collect their cards, then you try and reach out to them, and it's just not working. But if you connect with a plan and you network with a plan, now you know I need to meet these kind of people. So I'm going to go to this event. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go there. I'm going to listen for this. You have a strategy, and it's so much stronger than if you just wander around aimlessly. And you see some people that are at every event possible. I mean, they're just all over the place. And you think, wow, they don't do anything but network, right? They're everywhere. But they're not really getting very far because they don't know. They're just, oh, I sell computers and I sell anybody who's got a computer is a good referral. No, those aren't the kind of people that are really going to be productive for you. You've got to go with that plan. And that way, you will go to the right events. So if you are focusing, say, on seniors or something like that, you would not go to one of these young professional events, right? It's just not going to be your market. It's not going to be, not that they don't have grandparents or whatever. That's not the point. It's you're looking for more strategic relationships, not happenstance relationships. So if you're looking for young professionals, you'll go more to a young professional event. Whatever the event is, if you need that, do some research. There's a ton of events out there. And you really need to be able to strategize on, nobody has extra time, no one. And it's just one of those things where if you don't plan, you'll just waste time running all over town. And you will say this statement, networking really doesn't work for me. That's why. You went without a plan. You go to the wrong events. You don't have any strategy in mind. You're just sort of hoping you bump into somebody. It doesn't work that way. So now let's figure out, when you go there, what kind of mindset do you have to have? Okay, you have to go to learn rather than tell. And I kind of described that in detail with this. So what do? You're learning, because the more you can learn about the person you're talking to, the more you will know whether they're going to be a good referral partner for you, or whether they're going to be a good client for you. Or even this, you want to know if you can help them. And you might hear something and you're thinking about other people that you know, and you go, I know somebody that might be able to help you with that issue. Well, then you're cementing a deeper relationship, right? You offer help. Always be thinking about them. Who do you know you can connect with them to help them? But never, ever, ever sell. It's just not the place to do it. You don't want no quick sale type thing. Now, unless I was absolutely desperate and my computer just froze on me and completely like fractured and it's not working, and I run into a computer person and I don't know anyone else, yeah, that might work, but it doesn't happen very often. I love this statement: be interested rather than interesting. I speak at the college, University of Memphis, sometimes in one of the business classes, and sometimes to the people there, their students, and I ask them a lot, who's introverted? Well, large portion of them are. And I ask them, so would networking be tough for you? And they go, I don't like networking. I don't like talking to people. The introverts actually are better networkers than the extroverts. The extroverts tend to dominate conversations. They talk too much. The introvert tends to listen. And so they're interested. They ask more questions because they're afraid to talk, right? So they actually have an advantage. And I tell these students, don't worry about what to say. Just go with a couple of really good questions and then listen to what they say and just keep asking them questions. Get them talking and they will love you. They will totally, totally love you. And they might not even know you. I was on an airplane once, and I was visiting my sister in Charlotte, and I was flying back to Memphis. It was a short trip, supposed to be, but we ran into a storm. And when we got to Memphis, we were just going to land, and this big old huge storm hit, and we couldn't because there was not the right visibility. So we had to circle the airport and circle the airport and circle the airport. Literally, it was a really bad storm. We couldn't land. So finally, the pilot comes on and he goes, I'm sorry, but we have to go back to Charlotte because we are going to run out of fuel if we don't go refuel. Literally, we went all the way back to Charlotte. And so all this while, we're all sitting, next to the people. And I was sitting next to a gentleman who happened to be an air traffic controller. And so I had a fascinating conversation with him because I was going like, why can't we land because isn't that like automatic pilot that you used to tell me, no, we still have to have some visibility and blah, blah, blah. It was so interesting. Then we got on other subjects because we couldn't stay on flying all the time. We ended up back in Charlotte. We refueled and found out that the airline flight crew was over their limit, so they had to get off. And they had to send a new flight crew, so we were waiting on the tarmac for that. Then finally, I got back to Memphis at night. I was supposed to be back like 10 or 11 in the morning. But we talked the entire time, and I just kept asking him lots of questions, his family, whatever. I don't even remember all of them. But I do remember this. When we got to Memphis and we were about to land, he goes, this has been so much fun. He goes, and this is what he said to me. He goes, I have told you more stuff about myself than I have told anyone ever. And not once did he ever ask me what I did, period. So he didn't even know me. He didn't, I just kept asking him questions. He was fascinating. I mean, I enjoyed talking to him. But that made me realize if you're interested, people just like you. They'll connect with you. They'll listen to you. If I'd have asked him anything, he probably would have been able to help me, do something for me, whatever, because I wasn't annoying. I wasn't like talking and trying to, and I was a salesperson at that time. I was selling things, but I was selling air purifiers at that time before even BNI. I was in BNI, but I was not an owner of the franchise. I was selling air purifiers. I could have tried to sell him an air purifier, but he didn't know that I even sold them. So you focus on connecting rather than collecting. In other words, connect with people rather than collecting cards or whatever you collect. Just connect with people. And then you need to research to see and be prepared when you go to talk to them. You need to research before the event. What can I meet? Who can I meet, I should say, and what kind of people do I need to talk to? Part back to your plan. That way, no matter where you are and what you do, you're always sticking to a plan so that you don't waste time, because no one has that extra time to waste. Now, you want to build relationships so people will refer you or they'll use you. That's kind of the common theme of this whole thing. It's not about what you can sell, but it's about what kind of relationships you build with people. And that's huge, huge, huge. And then this next slide is talking about being a connector. This is one of the most important principles that you could possibly develop, is learning how to be a connector. And one of the most fascinating stories that I have learned, and actually Sherry and I were talking about it earlier, she's in Toastmasters, so am I. And I did a speech on this subject once about being a connector. And one of the articles I found just totally fascinated me. And it was about Paul Revere. And so I put this statue of Paul Revere up. Everybody knows who he is, right? Paul Revere's bride. But what I didn't know, and what I had really, if I learned it in school, I totally forgot it. But I didn't know that the night that Paul Revere rode, there were 2 other riders that went out that night. I had no idea, right? So I'm fascinated by this article, and I'm reading that there were 2 other guys, and they all rode in different directions. And Paul Revere actually didn't make it all the way to, I believe, to Lexington. He didn't make it all the way. But he got the poem written about him. He got all the credit. The other 2 guys are hardly even mentioned anywhere. Why? Why was that? Even though he didn't completely complete his journey, why was he considered the person that alerted everyone that the British were coming? It was because of what he did before the ride. He was a silversmith, and he had to inherit his father's silversmith business, I think when he was like 15 or something. His dad died early, and he actually inherited that business. But he learned the craft, and he became an amazing silversmith. And he made a lot of connections because he sold to a lot of really quality, he sold a lot of quality work to a lot of more prominent people. But he also was a member of the Sons of Liberty, and they were more of an activist movement. So he was getting involved, and he was meeting people, and he was making connections. So on the night that he rode, he didn't just ride to one house and the next house and the next house like the other guys did. They kind of went house to house. He did not. He would go to the strategic people in that town that he knew, and then they'd pass the word. And then he would go to another strategic person and pass the word. So he actually got more word out, but he didn't even finish. But it was enough that those people in this town would know somebody in another town, and they connected the dots a whole lot faster than what the people who really didn't know there many people and were going door to door, so to speak. And I thought that was so fascinating, because it's like with us, if we are just transaction, 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 we don't get very far. But if we start building strategic referral partners, or in this case, strategic alliances with different people, when we need something, those people are going to be there. And this is true to life. I mean, you don't have to sell anything to know this principle and to do it, because if you are the kind of person that wants to help people, that wants to be involved, and that you know this person over here and you're willing to offer them to this person over here, and because you connected, there's that tie. It's just like you stay tied because you're part of the equation and they trust you. So naturally, they're going to trust the person on either side of you. And that will get you farther than anything else, even if you never sell a product or a service or whatever. So when you do meet people down at the bottom, I just put a picture, it's like a trust transfer. It's like, oh yeah, you're so-and-so's friend. Oh, absolutely. And they believe you. They trust you. They listen to you, and they rely on you. That's the first part of what we're doing. And then Sherry asked me to make this into 2 parts. So I thought about, I'm going to give you the tips on building your plan right now. And maybe you can think about it if you join us again next week. And think about it and make your plan. And if you're brave enough to talk, we could actually talk about it a little bit, and I can help you. But what now do you do with that plan? If we're still sitting around, which we are, and some states aren't open at all, Tennessee's opening a tiny little bit where Sherry is. They're not like till May 30th, so they've got to stay or wear a mask when they go out, whatever. No matter where you are, and I know this broadcast goes all over the place, so who knows what condition you are in right now, but I don't think anywhere is like mass opening up where we're back to normal life. It's just, I haven't heard of any place anyway, but there's still a way for you to network in this current environment. And there's tips that I can give you that will really help you stay in line with your friends, stay in line with clients, and build potential. So if you're in a position where you're working right now, but maybe you're on hold and you can't see clients because they're not in their offices or whatever, that still doesn't mean you can't reach out. And I'll give you some tips on how to connect with them, how to get your strategic partners to connect you if you've built that little strategic partnership and those referral partners, and how to handle this particular situation right now in order for us to get results. So if there's any questions, I don't know if we can open it up or not. Everybody's real quiet, but
well, one lady said this is an awesome session. Privately, she wrote that to me. So
very cool.
And I want to echo that. So this is probably one of the best networking. You know, I was in sales for years, and I mean, I have so many things going through my head as you were doing this. I will tell you a couple of things that stood out for me, Jana, were first of all, the know, like, and trust. Right? I mean, that was ingrained into our heads back in the day.
I know.
And I think it still is. And so therefore you can put, depending on your strengths and how you think, it can put this false belief, as you said, you myth busted it, right, around what that means. And I have a relator. And so I always say I hate going to networking events because I feel like there's so many people being fake. And now I realize the reason that feels that way, besides I'm a relator, is because they're trying to get something from me, right? They're trying to sell.
Right.
And so
you're developing the relationship.
Yes, and I want to develop the relationship. And I always feel like I'm the odd one out. But now I realize it doesn't make them wrong, first of all. It just, they may not understand how to network correctly.
Exactly.
And I may not be matched up with what they're their product is, even if they're presented incorrectly. I may not be their audience. And so I think the know, like, and trust thing is I don't have to go there to be fake, because that was always my belief around it, right? I can go there and be me, and the people who are doing that, I can actually grant them some grace and go, you know what, they just don't even know how to network correctly. That's okay. And so, I mean, just a lot of around the thought process, and that's just the way my mind works. So that was the first thing. The second thing is the five senses. Somebody who also is an achiever, so I like to get things done. So I think I used to go in there with my relator thinking it was fake, and then because I couldn't get anything done, we get frustrated, right? So now I can apply that to my achiever and really think about the five senses, and like, you know, and it just, I don't know why that really, it was that's my learner, right? I'm learning something new, but it just really triggered, like, there's other ways to do this. And then the other thing that came to mind to summarize everything you said, for me, this might not be for everybody else, so if you're on here, unmute yourself and have questions or comments, is time. I think if you're in a desperate mindset and you need to make money, or you need to sell, or even if you are the best networker, could be the best networker in the world and know how to build relationships, if you go there with that desperate mindset, because I can remember being in a place where I needed to make money, and it's hard to really build a relationship when it's kind of like somebody who's dating somebody new. If you're feeling needy and you need to be loved, you're probably not going to find the love of your life, right?
So it's like a repelling, like an animal can sense. It's like you can sense this thing that these people are pushy and they're needy, and you don't want to do business with them. But if somebody's like they don't need you, maybe they do, but they're not expressing it, you're like drawn to them.
Yeah.
Really drawn to them. It's kind of like a pendulum. We learned this in Sandler. And they draw this pendulum, and they say, if you have happy years, like, oh, they're going to buy from me or whatever, and you're just like ahead of them, the natural thing of a pendulum is going to go backward and repel you. Yes. But if you stay behind, like I'm trying to teach, with just build the relationship, stay behind them, they move forward, they move the direction that you want them to move. And it's so true. It's really.
Yes. Somebody, Deshay Hearn, she's saying it out loud to everybody. It's not private, so I can go ahead. She loved the Paul Revere story. So I love that analogy. She also said she has a relator, like I mentioned, number 2, and she felt the same way about networking meetings. I'm glad that we could connect, Deshay. But she said that having a strategic plan, she never thought about that before. So next time she goes, network, to a network meeting, she's gonna have a strategic plan. So I'm very excited about next week, because what do I want, who do I want, and where are they? But then so I just have this I don't know if it's a false belief or just this, and it's just based on experience, right? I don't ever want to be fake. So I think it's one thing to have a plan, but then to be authentic while you're there.
Yeah, you really did. People can sense if you're not. If you're not really genuinely interested, they get it. Just like somebody said, don't write the questions on your hand. Now, next question.
Yeah.
Don't do that, right?
What was I watching? I was watching some sitcom, and his wife couldn't make it home. So she called somebody was coming over, and he was like, I don't want to talk with her. And she goes, write these questions down. So he wrote them on his arm. And so said there, like, so, yeah, what are you doing? She goes, do you have questions written on your arm?
That's funny, but that's kind of like some people do. They're, just like, don't do that. They can sense that, right? Oh, gee. That's
but
funny.
Does anybody else, and again, you guys could all unmute yourself, or, this was, I loved this and how you set it up. And like I said, you're making me rethink a few things, especially like you said, right now is a great time to be rethinking how we approach relationships. So this is just, and you've made it simple. I also like the doctor analogy, right? so many times entrepreneurs, or if those of you who are watching this and you're not a business owner, whatever business you're in, right? Even if you're in HR and you go to SHRM, not everybody there is the same. So how do you network with the right people that they're in the same situation you're in right now and you want to learn from? And I think it's amazing that we tend to want to be all things to all people. And usually that's out of fear, right? We're scared of what we might not get. And if we can let that go and just focus in on what we do have and what we have to offer, whatever group that is. I mean, it could be in church groups, right? When people are, and they have an event at church for people to mingle and meet people. You don't have to meet everybody at your church. You just need to meet those people that are in the same place you are at, possibly. So how do you do that?
And strengths helps with that, because I used to be in high school. I was the shyest girl in my class, senior class. It was in my yearbook. Horrible. I threw that yearbook away. Shyest girl in my senior class, right? And I'm like, oh, dreadful. I have nothing to offer but shyness, right? Whoopee. And, I've come a long way, thankfully.
I would say.
But the point is, not until I realized what my strengths were did I think, I don't have to be these things. I don't have to be that. I'm free to be who I am, because that's the way God made me. But point is, I can appreciate what I am. And it was funny. When we got the 34, I got all 34 of mine to see. And I read, my last one is futuristic. I mean, the very last one. So it's not, it's there as a strength, but tiny little thing. And I thought, man, no wonder I have a hard time projecting 5 years and writing a plan out like that. I struggled with that. Now I'm like, whoopee, I don't have to worry about that.
You don't have to do it. Right? And you're still going to be successful.
Yeah, right. I am. I just go at it a different way. And I have friends who are futuristic. And I can rely on them, right? So yeah, it's very freeing, and it helps you just in networking to be who you are, but just refine. If you're a talker, refine your talking a little bit. Ask more questions. If you're shy, just listen. It's just really, it all comes back to the same type of thing. You just be who you are and learn how to deal with what you are.
Absolutely. Well, this has just been fabulous, Jana, and we just appreciate you taking your time and volunteering your time and giving of your time and your knowledge and your skills, because we know you teach this and and it's part of your business. So just even sharing it with all of us is just a gift in itself. And I speak on behalf of anybody who is watching today or watches in the future, that I truly appreciate you doing this.
I appreciate you asking me. It was fun.
Yes, it is fun. So I can't wait. I've got all kinds of notes. I'm going to actually, I'll go put them in order, but, I'll go put them in my little planner, and I'm going to work on them. And then next week, I can't wait to do what you suggest in this environment. So we look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you, Jana.
Everybody.
Bye, everybody.
All right. You're going to
let me shut off the record.